know I'm the media whiz, because one art form wasn't enough. So, you remember how, like a year or two ago, I did a retrospective on the Goosebumps series? Well, I think it's time to do another little retrospective on a literary macabre book series that I grew up with, that being Black Lagoon Adventures. The story begins with an author and illustrator by the name of Mike Thaler. He grew up in California and began writing in 1967 for an Arizona newspaper. It was there where Thaler became a very close associate with the artist Jared Lee, who he began frequently collaborating with on almost everything he's put out since. The stuff in the newspaper was mostly comprised of riddles, and it seemed that it gave the man some notoriety, as he began to work with a variety of different artists all throughout the early 70s, and he even managed to pitch an animated series of skits to PBS called The Adventures of Letterman, which managed to feature the vocals of some legends like Zero Mostel, Joan Rivers, and Gene Wilder. But the man would become very well known through his series of dark comedy children's books, with the very first surprise hit, The Teacher from the Black Lagoon. The original book was released in 1989 with the help of Dodd, Mead and Company, Little Brown and Company, and of course, Scholastic. The book would set in stone the format for all the books that would follow in the series. It's about a boy named Hubie who imagines the worst possible outcomes when it comes to his school. Obviously a playoff of children's fears whenever they begin a new school year and such. In the case of this story, Hubie hears that he's going to be attending the class of Miss Green, and after hearing some rumors that she's a quote-unquote monster, he daydreams that she's literally a green lizard monster who eats and dismembers her students. But by the book's end, it's revealed that she's just a regular, friendly, blonde woman. And then the story basically repeated itself with the sequel, released in 1993, The Principal from the Black Lagoon. I call it a sequel because it seems like this one is actually supposed to be a direct follow-up to the other one. The front cover has the word teacher crossed off and replaced with principal, and this one also follows Miss Green, who seems to have become the acting principal in the time between the first and second book. And despite already meeting her and knowing her since she was his teacher, he even gave her a hug the second he saw her, Hubie fears a visit to her in the principal's office. Though this might be less about Miss Green herself and more a playoff of kids' natural fear of winding up in the principal's office. And what exactly landed Hubie here? He snatched the wig off of his teacher, Miss Jones. It's actually a nice little bit of continuity, considering Miss Jones was actually referenced at the beginning of the first book, wig and all. As well as some of the other kids that appear all throughout this book. They were the tormented classmates from the first one. But of course, by the end, Hubie finds out, shock of shocks, that Miss Green is just a nice lady who lets him off light with a warning. And because of these two books, they basically set in stone the structure of all the subsequent books in the series. Hubie worries that something evil or scary is about to happen because of the thing in the title. We see various horrifying imaginings that he has with pictures that accompany what he's describing, until it's revealed that they aren't what he thought at all, and they're actually just regular, everyday, easygoing people. A lot of the humor in these books comes from Hubie misinterpreting what people tell him about these people, and dear God, these books love their puns. I mean, just look at some of these names. T-Rex Fenderbender, Miss Lanote, Wanda Belch, Miss Armbender, Ms. Pluggins, Dr. B. N. Payne, Frank N. Stein. Wait a minute, does he have a daughter named Frankie Stein, perchance? Because that'd be some crossover for you. But they even found a way to branch out from just the ordinary teachers and school faculty, but went outward with books like The New Kid, The Bully, The Class Pet, and The Dentist from the Black Lagoon. The New Kid being about a foreign exchange student who Hubie thinks is a space alien. The Class Pet from the Black Lagoon is primarily based on Hubie wondering what the new Class Pet is going to be, imagining that it could be a lion, or a monster, or this blob thing, but at the end it turns out that it's just a hamster, because you can't go wrong with hamsters, right? Unless they're running all around like in Nutty Professor, or it's the hamster monster from Monster Blood 2 and Goosebumps, or Pee-Pee from Invader Zim, or if they're doing one of YouTube's original viral videos. The bully turning out to actually be nice, and also the bully's name is Butch Pounder. Ha! Suck it, Derek Savage. You thought you created a bully character named Butch first, but no, this series got you beat to it.
Ignorant of the law is not an excuse.
As for Dentist from the Black Lagoon, well, actually, come to think of it, don't most people already have a fear of dentists? You know, unless you're Bill Murray in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, yeah. It's your professionalism that I respect.
Now that I think about it, do you think this is the same dentist that left Jimmy as nothing but a limbless torso in the Ed, Edd n Eddy creepypasta? One of my personal favorites is when they subverted things and made it from Miss Green's perspective in The Class from the Black Lagoon. Not only does Hubie not appear in the story, but they did a neat spin on it with a teacher's fear that her class are going to be a bunch of rambunctious and loud monsters, quite literally, only to reveal that her students are friendly, polite, and they welcome her with cards, apples, and flowers. Good, because, dear God, this woman was even donning hockey gear for her life. It's okay, Mrs. Green. You could always have it worse. You see what happened to Mr. Garby? Man taught in the inner city for 6 years, and he never came back the same.
Son of a bitch! You done messed up, Aaron!
Picture books weren't the only thing to come out of this series. Aside from 3 animated books that they did for Teacher, Gym Teacher, and Librarian of the Black Lagoon, they also did a series of chapter books, starting with Field Trip from the Black Lagoon in 2002. These books were basically extended versions of the picture books, with each of the chapters going into specific details of each of the stories and what they were supposed to be about, such as class trips, science fairs, field days, school carnival, you name it. These books lasted from 2002 to 2017 with 33 book titles, almost as long as the actual picture books themselves, which had 30 titles. In fact, the very last book that Thaler ever did was also the last chapter book in the series, 2017's My New Puppy from the Black Lagoon, which was about Hubie worrying about getting a new dog. I find this very appropriate since his dog almost always tags along with him in these books, and I would like to believe that Jared Lee made the dog have a slight resemblance to Snoopy for a reason. And in between all of that, there were also 3 books that were part of a special edition series called Hubie Cool, which involved Hubie imagining himself in a bunch of different professions, like being a superhero or a vampire hunter. Man, Hubie has such an overactive imagination, he can give Doug Funny a run for his money. So overall, what do I find so special about these books exactly? Well, in a lot of ways, these books were very similar to Goosebumps for me. They were the perfect gateway horror fiction for young kids that could slowly lead them into the more hardcore stuff when they got older. Every generation seems to have these kind of things. Gremlins, Goonies, Stephen King, Addams Family, Nightmare Before Christmas, a lot of Tim Burton movies actually, come to think of it. Courage, Invader Zim, Billy and Mandy, you name it. And I think that's just kind of the general appeal of horror fiction. In a way, some people like to be scared. It's that weird thrill that you get out of watching horror films, whether it's more psychological or gory or any of that. There's always that weird fascination we have with scary things that keeps us entertained. I always loved reading these books growing up around this time of year. With the beautiful, unique designs and use of colors from Jared Lee, the witty dialogue and macabre tones throughout Thaler's writing, and the childlike optimism and heart they managed to pull out of each of these books, that's what always kept me so entertained with this series. And considering this went on as long as it did, my hat goes off to Thaler, Lee, and co. for putting this all together. Aside from these books, the two also managed to put out a couple of other book series, a lot of them being Christian themed, if you can believe that. But of course, I'll always remember these guys for making one of my original exposures to horror fiction, and what gave me a great series of books to binge read every October. Wow, I gotta say, so far, this Mediaween, things have been going pretty good. I mean, yeah, we had to look at a mediocre Wii game last time, but so far we got to look at an awesome theme park ride and an awesome series of books. So, what do we have for next time? Something good?
We're the monsters! We're the monsters! Oh, yeah!
Oh, fuck! By the way, this image right here comes from Nurse of the Black Lagoon, and I just have to ask, is this what goes through the minds of anti-vaxxers 24/7?